What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the More Than Philly Sports Network. It is great to be here with all of you today. We have a lot to go over today in what is becoming a very hot debate in the Philadelphia area, specifically, and as it is every year across the NBA. As always, joining alongside my co-host Gavin, Tony. Gavin, long weekend for us here on the show. We're back today. It is Tuesday, the 20th of April here in 2021. A lot going on, a lot in the sports world as well. But before all of that, the big news of last night, of course, the 76ers and the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors taking down the Sixers in a game that the Warriors were able to just pull away in the last 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, courtesy of Gavin's favorite player, number 30, Steph Curry. A phenomenal game for him. I sent out a tweet earlier last week saying that Steph Curry is the MVP. But we're going to have a debate about that today because I have a feeling we will have a few different opinions of it. But first of all, Gavin, Tony, back here on the network. How are we doing today?
Zach, I'm doing great. Listen, I just spent some time reading a book. Zach, actually, this is a really good book. It kind of it's relevant to what's going on now in society. But it's nice outside, Zach. It's outside from I want to say maybe an hour and a half, maybe two. I lost time, but how you doing today? Skip day. Today was a skip day for us.
That is true. Same here. Look, I got a chance to play some golf this morning with a good friend of mine. It was good to get out there again. With that being said, of course, like Gavin said, no school today for us. I probably spent about an hour outside, fell asleep. Hope I don't get sunburned. I don't look too bad, but
a little red.
A little red. Trying to get the hair to blonde up. But listen, in all seriousness, I'm excited to get to it. Again, last night, great game for the Warriors. No sweat for the Sixers. No Ben Simmons. No Tobias Harris. Sixers still hold a game on the Brooklyn Nets, who play in home this night, I believe, against Minnesota. I'm going to double check that. But there's a chance they can pull a half game up. Or I'm sorry, they play New Orleans tonight. And then play in Tampa tomorrow against the Raptors. So I don't know. One game back for the Brooklyn Nets. They can pull a half game up tonight. I'm not worried about the Sixers. At some point, they had to lose past 10 games, 7-3. Gavin, what are some of your thoughts on that game last night from the Sixers' perspective?
Well, Zach, you had MVP candidate and then arguably and the best shooter of all time. I mean, there's no other way to put it. If you want to take major takeaways, how good Steph Curry is. And I feel like we take this man for granted. Zach, when he wasn't playing last year, and this could be for all my Curry fans out there, the game felt boring from behind the arc. And the conversation of Damian Lillard started to spark up. Zach, you know how I feel about that. No disrespect to Damian Lillard, but he's not no Steph Curry. I mean, Zach, we've seen it recently. Steph Curry's been shooting the hell out of the ball. He has 11 straight games of 30-plus points or more. And 11 and arguing, I want to say 11 straight or even more games with 10 threes more. Zach, he's scored over 79 threes in the past, 10 games? That's out shooting.
11, yeah.
That's out shooting the Magic and a couple other teams. That's just him by himself. It's crazy. Now, on the relative on our Sixers side, you see the importance of Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons. Last night, I want to say down late in the clutch when you needed a couple quick buckets, Tobias Harris was your guy. Zach, we saw a stat yesterday where it showed that Tobias Harris is actually one of the clutch performers in late game situations. And the importance of Ben Simmons last night, I don't know. I mean, Zach, when you have a guy running over screens and pulling from 30, I don't know what Ben Simmons is really going to do for you. But having said all that, those two guys being out last night showed why Ben Simmons should be Defensive Player of the Year and why Tobias Harris is an All-Star. And George Hill, I'm going to give him a pass. It's his first game in a while. But Joel Embiid was dominant for the most part. But the better player won, and that was Steph Curry last night.
No doubt. Look, Steph Curry, no one's denying the talent. That team was pretty good before Kevin Durant got there. Steph Curry put Golden State on the map, right? He was drafted, had a few injuries early on. Mark Jackson becomes the coach. They go on make some noise. They go on to play in the playoffs a couple early round eliminations. They fire Mark Jackson. Next year, Steve Kerr gets hired. The rest is history. They win a ring. The following year, they go on and have the best record of all time. Unfortunately, they lose in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. They bring in Kevin Durant, and they were unstoppable until Durant's injuries against Toronto. I think people forget about how important, how significant Steph Curry is. And I make this case a lot, and I don't defend Kevin Durant a lot, but to steal the thunder from a player from the center of that team for a couple of years when Durant was there was pretty amazing. And interesting decision for the Finals MVP in 2015 to not go with Steph Curry. But, again, we'll see how that rolls out. Certainly is proving that he is the it factor for Golden State right now, and he was the one absorbing the double teams in 17 and 18 and even 2019 against Toronto. So I'm not quite sure. Again, with the Splash Brothers together, there's a good chance they become a contender next year. I like some of their key pieces, but they still are missing that depth on the bench that they had during that run. But people forget how good Steph Curry was. And yes, he's better than Damian Lillard. I will agree with you on that. Best point guard of all time, that's still debatable with Magic Johnson, but he's up there for sure. And again, his size, maybe that might be why. It's not every day you have a 6'9" point guard, and Steph Curry being at 6'3", 6'4". I think that it's certainly tough. But again, I think this season, if not before, he has surpassed both Reggie Miller and Ray Allen as the best shooter of all time. I think that's almost not a debate anymore, especially at the volume that he shoots at. And best point guard in the league this year. I think that was settled as well. I know Damian Lillard was the conversation, but let's be real here.
Was that real quick? I just want to touch on the Kevin Durant situation. You're right. You come to a team where it wasn't your team, but it made it feel like Zach. They played well basketball where the wealth was being spread around by everybody. It wasn't just one. It was everybody got their fair share, but it felt like in the clutch moments, it came down to Kevin Durant getting the ball. So I think that's where the perception of we forgot about Steph Curry. We didn't forget about Steph Curry. It was always his team. Zach, you could always say Draymond brings the passion, which is the truth.
No, Draymond was a crucial part of that team.
Draymond's a crucial part of the team defensively, exactly, and motivate guys like Kevin Durant and Steph Curry to play better defense. But remember, Zach, clutch moments, it was Kevin Durant getting the ball. It would go Kevin Durant, Curry, then Clay. And then throughout the whole game, it was who has the hotter hand. It was well spread ball movement. If Curry had 30 and Clay had 26, Kevin Durant had 18, 19. But it was a fair spread. But Zach, when you're talking about Steph Curry, when you're talking about a guy and you're talking about all-time point guard, he is the reason why that if you can't shoot the three ball, you can't play basketball. You're not good at basketball. It's like there's no such thing as like a Chris Paul anymore, where being a true point guard, dishing the ball, we don't consider that great basketball anymore. That's rare. We don't consider that great basketball.
Everyone wants to see 30 a night.
You want to see 30 a night. You want to see scoring. You want to see pulling from 30. So when we talk about greatest point guard of all time, I get it. You talk about Magic Johnson with the height and the things that he brought in the championships. But remember, Steph Curry revolutionized the game. And what I mean by that is he changed it. And that's where I think when we talk about greatest point guard of all time, and I know you got the John Stockton and Jerry West and all those, but when you talk about changing the game, I think of those two. You had the tall point guard, and you had the point guard that just pulls from, it feels like anywhere on the court. And Zach, as soon as he crosses half court, there's no such thing as a bad shot for him. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's crazy. Best point guard in the league, in my opinion. Not necessarily the best point guard of all time. That is a close debate, but certainly a close number two, if not number one. So this year, we'll talk about it some more. Let's talk about this year. Let's talk about 2021. MVP, most valuable player. What is the MVP in this league? There are two schools of thought on what the MVP is. Number one is the best player in the league straight up. And number two is most valuable to their team, of which that team is one of the better ones. So that's why it kind of gets debated. MVP right now is between Joel Embiid, of course, Philadelphia, home, Nikola Jokic, Damian Lillard, and Steph Curry. Those are the top four off the top of my head, if I remember correctly. However, are all of them, how valuable is each one to their team specifically? If that was what the award was based off of, my pick would probably be Steph Curry. We've seen the Blazers go on a run without Dame. We've seen the Sixers go on a run without Joel. The Nuggets, we haven't seen much without Jokic, but I imagine they have a lot of talent on that team. They could still scrap together good wins and at least be a playoff team. The Golden State Warriors are probably a lottery team without Steph Curry. Again, no Klay Thompson this year. Draymond's not a scorer. We know that. James Wiseman has been battling injuries here as of late. Kevon Looney is a good role player, but not an it factor. And with that being said, the other guys, Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Oubre, nice names. People know the names, but they're really not that good. Steph Curry is the sole reason why the Golden State Warriors will make the playoffs this year, if they do. So if the question is who's the most valuable to their team, which player adds the most wins to a team, I'd probably have to go with Steph Curry. But if it's based off of how it really is in this league, as far as just the best player overall, then I'd probably have to go with either Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic, because both have been playing insane and putting up insane numbers. But Steph Curry's right there. And he might end up winning it because of the second philosophy as far as the best player in the league. But at the moment, and when it comes to win share, when it comes to who adds the most wins to a team, as of right now, Steph Curry, by a long shot, in my opinion. I mean, we can just take a look at the records with and without, and I'll try to pull those stats up at our next break. But
it's above 500 with them and way below 500.
Way below. And you have, again, the Sixers are a top team, and not really any other teams in the East with a player that's playing at a superstar level worth talking about. Golden State Warriors are out of it right now, Gavin. They're 500. They're 29-29. So it's going to be a tough conversation to make. My pick, if it were to be over today, is Joel Embiid. He has been the most transcending player this year. But if you want to talk about which player adds the most to their team, I think Steph Curry's right up there.
So that's your definition of MVP, right? Because mine's a little bit different. I have two ways to think about it.
Yeah, my definition is best player in the league, most valuable to the league.
I got two ways to think about it, or 2 to 3 ways. One, Zach, the one that you said the best player in the league and most valuable to a team. You're right. Then you got to think about box office and not marketability, but box office and who's drawing the most attention right now. Right now, the most attention is Steph Curry. I mean, 50 points, 40 points, 49 last night. Zach, the brother's averaging 31.4 points in the last 10 games. He's now the best, the league leader in points per game. Okay, so having saw that, that's one way to look at it. But if you look at the record, Zach, it doesn't show. It wouldn't show. Now look at Joel Embiid and look at Nikola Jokic, right? Joel Embiid sitting number 1 in the East. The number one argument against him is that the amount of games he's missed. Nikola Jokic hasn't missed any games. Joel Embiid has only played 38 games this year, 39 games this year. Some were due to non-playing on back-to-backs, and then Zach, we know about the injury. But the valuableness of the team, and going back to Steph Curry, is because when Steph Curry's out, I think the Warriors are 2-8 without him, and 28 of 22 with him. I think, and that's correct. I think. And with Joel Embiid, Zach, we know they're above 500 with him, and then they're not the worst without him, but they're not the best on him. But they do enough to hold their own. So if you minus Joel Embiid last night and you put Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons back in, are they winning that game?
I think so. Actually, I do.
Okay, so you saw it last night with Joel Embiid. They didn't win that game. So not trying to take away because he never was a 2-star, but you get what I'm saying is how valuable is Joel Embiid to the Sixers right during this MVP run? He needs everybody to help him out win. So
he can put up 30 plus a night. He'll put up MVP numbers, but that's not necessarily yielding a win.
Exactly.
Steph Curry is literally going out and winning games for the Warriors.
He's going out winning games and dueling with the other star. Him and Jason Tatum Saturday night had one of the best games I've seen this year, where they were just trading bucket after bucket. Zach, Steph Curry and last night put 20 points in the fourth quarter. As much as it pains me to watch that happen, but the Curry fan in me was loving it. But the Sixers side of me, I was pissed.
The shot would go up and it was going in. He's shooting 49.9% from 3 in the month of April. It's insane. He's playing really well. He is a top 3, top 5 player in the world. I'm going to look at the key MVP rankings right now. Gavin, you were correct. 2-8 without him. If he was there for those games and you give them all of the, you kind of adjust the record for that, they would be about 6th or 7th in the West right now, right in front of the Dallas Mavericks for frame of reference. So possibly that can make a stronger case for MVP, but the question is it too late in the season? Is he heating up too late? And that's going to be the question that will be told.
Well, let me ask you this question, because going back to your definition, most valuable to a team, wouldn't that make Chris Paul an MVP candidate if you want to look at it like that? I mean, Zach, the only difference they make –
What's their record with and without him?
He barely missed any games. It's hard. It's Devin Booker that's been in and out of the lineup. But, Zach, you talk about a guy that comes in and brings leadership to a team that goes 8-0 in the bubble. Zach, me and you were sitting here on this talk show saying how they deserve to be in the play-in game after the run they had. You add Chris Paul and you add, I want to say, is that Jay Crowder, who emphasizes the defense and motivates guys. But Chris Paul is out here giving assists, setting his guys up in better positions to score and win games. And they're sitting second in the West right now. So and Charles Barkley said best, Chris Paul deserves a look. He's not the MVP because Zach, going back to NBA's definition, you want offense. He doesn't bring any offense, but he goes back to the traditional way of point guard, the passing, the Rajon Rondo and him. They pass, they set guys up. They're cool with only having 10 points a night. That's my wrong thinking. You talk about most valuable player to a team. You look at Chris Paul. You could look at guys like, I know this is going to be hard to say, but you could look at guys like James Harden, who comes to Brooklyn. Zach, you're going to shake your
He's got the numbers. Got the numbers.
You got the. You can't argue
valuable to that team. It has to be a combination of both. That's why Chris Paul's not. If Chris Paul's dropping 30 a night, different conversation.
But you can't argue with numbers either, Zach. I mean, James Harden comes in. You can say what you want about James Harden and the team itself, but he showed up when they needed him the most, and they were there. I mean, Zach, they were, I don't want to say bottom field of the East, but they were struggling at the start of the season. You get James Harden, now you're neck and neck with the Sixers, and you see what happened when he lost. The offense almost looks stagnant, but it doesn't look as smooth. So my question for you is, the MVP is a moving thing, a constant moving argument between everybody, whether it's the media, whether it's us, whether it's the barbershop, whether it's just regular chatter talk on Instagram or Twitter, anybody. I feel like if you think about MVP, you can think about it in many ways. And you want to go most dominant, Joel Embiid. And you want to go most popular to watch at the moment in time, Steph Curry. If you want to go scoring, you could look at a lot of things. But Zach, we don't know. We don't know what the criteria is or what the best way to look at the MVP because no one knows.
I'd say that you have to be consistent, clutch, and flashy. Those are the three variables. And this is not my personal judgment. This is just how the interpretations are done. And according to the top 10 as of right now, the key MVP chase, which was updated just 4 days ago, you have Rudy Gobert at 10, Steph Curry at 9, LeBron James at 8, James Harden at 7, Kawhi Leonard at 6. And the top 5 are Damian Lillard, Giannis, Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid, and then Nikola Jokic.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
How can a guy that hasn't played in almost a month be in the top 10?
Because the Lakers' record has been terrible without him.
But Zach,
that proves his case, doesn't it?
But hold on. But even with him, he wasn't doing eye-popping numbers. Zach, they
were second.
They were above. I'll give you this. They were above, and no hate. They were above average with him. They wasn't doing anything too special. They weren't doing the worst.
He's averaging 25 and 8 a game, 8 boards, 8 assists, a steal, and a half wall.
But does that scream MVP
on 51%? It's not. No, it's not. You're right. But it's LeBron James, so he's always going to be in the conversation.
And that's the thing too. So there's another way you look at it. Then people's nameplate always puts someone in the reckoning. When you talk about LeBron James, everybody wants to throw LeBron in every year. LeBron can wake up in the morning on the off season and he's already getting MVP votes. Like that doesn't make sense to me. The MVP
What's the nameplate? What have we proven in the past?
Well, you could look at the past for a second, but you can't always. The past can't always make up the present. The MVP is always a present conversation, a present and a future. Right now, like in football, the MVP odds for last year was Patrick Mahomes. For this upcoming year was Patrick Mahomes was supposed to win MVP, or they're projecting him to win MVP this year. With last year coming in the NBA season, we had Luka Doncic as the favorite. Like that's mind blowing to me. And Luka Doncic, nothing taken away. Like he has special moments, but how do we know? Like the nameplate, once again, is this media? Is this sports betting? I'm not sure.
No, I think Luka's made his case. I think, look, in order to just be able to contribute to this much, when you're a 9 seed in the West, when your team is 500, even though you're flashy, putting up numbers and being consistent, it's a hard argument to be in the MVP conversation. If the Warriors were a 3 seed right now, he'd be in first place in the MVP conversation the way he's playing. I will say that. I do. I think after this week, look, I think that Embiid and Jokic are going to go back and forth for the 1 and 2 spot. I think Doncic is definitely still at 3. Giannis could possibly fall to 5. Curry can move up to 4, and I think that Damian Lillard falls out of the top 5. That's my projection going into next week, which I think comes out on Friday or Saturday of this week.
I can't argue with you that. I mean, it is a fluent conversation, but the one thing I don't like about the MVP conversation, Zach, and I think me and you had a discussion about this off the show, was I know I bash the past, right? But if you talk about the past and this present NBA season, before Joel Embiid got hurt, he was the best player in the league, most dominant by far.
He was number one in the key MVP power.
Number one. And as soon as Joel Embiid got hurt, everybody was writing him off. Like, that's the one thing I don't like. You can't forget about the past during the season, what they've already brought to the table. That's why it's called the most valuable player in the regular season. And I wanna present something to you. There's a lot of players that only show for the regular season and go missing in the playoffs. Do you think that there should be a higher if your team's in the playoffs, and do you think there should be like a regular season MVP award and then a playoff MVP award, or what?
They did do the bubble MVP last year. So I would say I think Finals MVP is enough. I think Finals MVP does the job because in order to if your team's knocked out in the first round, you can average 35 points a game and be the playoff MVP. But where'd you go the first round? I think Finals MVP does the job well. I think that the MVP I think that it is a good thing to have a regular season awards, but I think that the Finals MVP definitely covers your bases for it. It's pretty straightforward. I think that's usually just based on that series, but I think definitely some factors from previous series is played in that finals run are also factored in. So I like the idea of a playoff MVP, but I think that the Finals MVP itself is enough to be able to cover it because maybe if you make it to the conference final, but it's the same thing with Steph Curry. The team's not in the playoffs right now, therefore he can't be a top 5 in the conversation. He might break that this week. I actually think he will. However, the top MVP choices right now are Joel Embiid, who has his team first in the East, and of course you have Nikola Jokic, which his team I believe is 5th or 4th in the Denver Nuggets. So, and the Portland Trail Blazers at 6. So those are 3 of the guys. Giannis, of course, that team's in 3rd. You have to be able to win, and I think that the biggest factor is in the playoffs is who can win the NBA Finals, and that's where the MVP is rewarded for the Finals, not necessarily the entire playoffs.
All right, well, let me ask you this thing because I want to switch to another award before we head out of here. The Rookie of the Year award. We know LaMelo Ball was the clear-cut favorite in it, and it was between LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards because no disrespect to James Wiseman, but he wasn't really doing anything too special to really put you in the running. LaMelo Ball goes down, and everybody was saying that the award is wrapped up. Anthony Edwards, as of late, Zach, has stepped his play up. He just reached 1,000 points a couple games ago, or a couple days ago, excuse me. Is it fair to say that Anthony Edwards is the Rookie of the Year, or is it still LaMelo Ball's race, or is it locked? Because I've been watching Anthony Edwards all year. He's improving every game.
He is. That's tough. And when LaMelo went down, the Hornets were 4th in the East. Now they're 8th at 500 flat. The Minnesota Timberwolves are dead last or second to last. They're dead last.
Tied for last, actually.
In the Western Conference with the Houston Rockets tied with them. Anthony Edwards is averaging 18 a game. He occasionally would drop a 40 bomb on you, a 30 bomb. He's been impressive. And Gavin, as you said, he's getting better every day.
That's true.
So it's going to be a tricky one. It's actually a much closer race than people think. However, I do think LaMelo Ball's injury just barely knocks him out of it. I think Anthony Edwards will ultimately win Rookie of the Year.
And then finally, New York Knicks fans, I heard the chants of Julius Randle for MVP. I'm just saving you guys the headache. It's not going to happen. All right, let's just be honest. All right, I like what you guys are going on.
I do have to say this though. Remember, Zion Williamson was almost written off as being a New York Knick. They played on this weekend. I think it was Sunday night. And Zion Williamson said that besides New Orleans, that was his favorite place to play. Gavin, do you think at one point he was mentally prepared to become the center of the New York Knicks franchise? Do you think he mentally was there at one point before the lottery?
I think he was all set to be there. Zach, he wanted to be there. It seemed like he wanted to be there. And Zach, when you're a guy of that caliber who's been hyped up since high school, I mean, Zach, he was 6'5" in high school.
Done, yeah, at Duke.
6'5".
Already had a shoe deal.
Dunking on skinny kids in high school, and then goes to Duke and has one of the best seasons I've ever watched in my life, besides what just happened in the women's side of basketball. Paige Beckers just blew out the competition. But, Zach, if he would have went to New York, that would have been, one, the best place in the land because you're the center of attention. You're in one of the best cities in all America, Zach, if you ask me personally, number 1 best city in America.
Most popular sports venue, most valuable franchise.
I don't know how the owner sucks, but most valuable franchise and one of the best stadiums. It's like that would have been story written, and he's a Skywalker. But I see Zion Williamson end up being a New York Knick down the road. Him and RJ Barrett will team up. Now, it's hard to say that because you're thinking the New Orleans Pelicans are going to lock him up for long term.
Well, you got Julius Randle, who's the same position.
Well,
Julius, I think that the city of New York, James Dolan, even Tom Thibodeau, I think, or maybe he's part of it. I think him, their head coach, and Julius Randle are owed a debt from the city of New York.
Well, first of all,
listen, Julius Randle took a franchise last year that was dead in their rights, and his all-star play made them relevant and will probably help them get some notable players in free agency this offseason and maybe make a trade. He made that destination attractive himself. RJ Barrett coming up doing another job. They brought in Derrick Rose. They have a couple of other nice pieces, and they have a good culture they're building with their head coach. You have some new ownership, not entirely new. New president of basketball operations trying to get James Dolan out of some things. Yeah, look, the culture's changing, but I think that both their head coach and I think that Julius Randle owed a debt of gratitude from the city of New York for making the Knicks relevant again because they were going down a pretty nasty path of mediocrity and tanking.
Well, the last notable New York Knicks player that I can remember was Carmelo Anthony and Zach. That he was the only New York Knick that wanted to beat her, and I'll never forget the day. And when Julius Randle signed that deal, the same day that they lose Katie and Kyrie to Brooklyn, they announced they reached agreement with Julius Randle and Zach. If you ask Stephen A. Smith and a whole bunch of other people, it felt like all hell has broke loose in the Garden and New York Knicks turned it over. Now, a year later,
he's an all-star, putting up 20+ points a game and making that team relevant.
But here's the real question, Zach. We're talking about Julius Randle on 4/20/2021. We're talking about him today. Will Julius Randle be that same player next year?
Yes, he's improved every year. Look, all those former Lakers who didn't have a solid start to their career. Look, the Lakers were once a pretty deadbeat team in this. I hate to say it, but the post Kobe Bryant era for a few years was pretty terrible there. And D'Angelo Russell got out of that drama that he got himself into, but got himself out of that drama, was able to become a rising star in Brooklyn, and has bounced around since and has been injured, but still a pretty good player. We all know what's going on with Jordan Clarkson. With the Utah Jazz, he's going to win Sixth Man of the Year, and Julius Randle's doing his thing too. So a lot of these guys, they got off on the wrong start with a pretty crummy franchise at the time, which has since turned itself back around to where it should be, and they're all fanning out. And I think that's reason to believe that Julius Randle will be able to maintain his success, and hopefully they can get another superstar. RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, you get some of these young players, a good culture. The Knicks can be a scary team in a few years, but it's a slow and steady process.
I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to ignore that. But, Zach, would it be fair to say most improved player because he wasn't an all-star last year?
Yeah, definitely in that conversation.
Okay.
I think the most improved player is, in my opinion, a very important award because you usually don't see guys fall off once they've won most improved player. They kind of become a good player. Brandon Ingram, phenomenal player. Jason Tatum's out there. I know he didn't win it last year, but I think that he's definitely up there as far as that conversation goes. A lot of these guys who win most improved player, they go on to have pretty consistent careers. It's not usually a boom or bust. So I like players that win most improved player. Again, Brandon Ingram, he's just quiet this year, but he's doing his job. He's been a good player for them. He's an all-star. But yes, Julius Randle, in my opinion, according to DraftKings, is also a favorite of a Jeremy Grant to win most improved player. So we've been on this show long enough to be able to say that Gaven very much harsh criticism of the New York Knicks last summer. Maybe this year they listened and they've turned it up a little bit. Let's see what they can do if they can make some.
I don't know how much listening. I mean, the owner still owns the team.
I don't disagree with the Phillies owner still owns the team. They can still be pretty good. And speaking of that, they're making some major changes tonight, but we'll talk about that later.
Listen, Zach, final words on the New York Knicks. Good job, guys. That's all I got to say. Your owner's still pretty bad, and you guys kicked out Spike Lee, but that's for a conversation for another day. And Julius Randle, most improved. But I will say this. The New York Knicks are on up and coming, and I really want them to get in the higher seed or maybe drop to the 7th seed. I want to see New York versus Brooklyn in the playoffs.
I think that'd be a fun series. The Knicks have the best defense in the league, right?
I believe so, yes.
They have the best pace per game. I think it's like 98. They average their opponents 98 possessions a game. Therefore, their defensive rating is slightly above actually what the points allowed per game is, which is been a couple of years since then. They've done a great job. With that being said, everybody, as we talked about the MVP earlier, we're also beginning to break down and further discuss some of the other awards. as we're getting closer to playoff time. Tomorrow we're aiming to do some Phillies pregame live, possibly get a few other lives going during the week, maybe a general live, just to break down a lot of the updates coming in the sports world. With that being said, everybody, thank you so much for watching us today, and we hope you all have a good one.
Have a good one, everybody, and remember, stay safe and just spread the love. We need it. Zach, it's crazy outside.
We do need it for sure.
We know what's going on outside. We're not ignoring it, but this is a space where we like to just have fun and talk sports.
Thank you, everybody. We'll continue the conversation as always, and have a good one.
Have a good one. I can't believe I gave a New York Knicks a compliment. That's following me.
New York Knicks that coming soon.
No.
I'll see everybody on that note. We'll end it. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. In addition, hit that bell icon and set it to all to get reminded of when we go live and when we post excerpts of our videos. Again, thanks for watching.